And here we go. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hello, Ted Coley.
Hello, Fred.
How are you doing today?
Okay, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing spec-frickin-tacular. We are in Fred's house again. We are in the House of Death, and it's not 90 degrees today. Everybody's not ready to pass out. It's very temperate in here.
Yeah, it's
There's a nice breeze. It's 75 degrees. This is how we should be doing the studio every week. So if we could just get Mother Nature to cooperate with us, that would be very helpful. So,
yeah, it's very nice in here.
So two things I got to tell you right from the start. Number one, I owe you an apology. Last week, we had to go by 9, and you brought up 2 very good topics, which we're going to pick up on. So, Ted, I'm sorry we cut you short last week. Do you accept my apology?
Yeah, we'll see.
Number 2, look what I got in my hot little hands right here.
Ooh.
My mom, I got to thank my mom. She bought me the Cleveland Plain Dealer. She wrapped it for me with the Cavs Championship in here and the Cavs Championship on SI, the cover.
Wow.
So that'll be a collector's item, and
That's
when
nice.
when I go in a nursing home, my son will probably sell it for $50. So my son thanks you in the future for future drug paraphernalia. I'm just teasing. My son's not going to do drugs, hopefully. But on that happy note, I wanted to thank my mom, and you brought up 2 great topics, but we had to leave. And your question was the court cases of Amy Miholovec and Michael Jackson. And I gave like 2-minute answers. We had to shut down. I had to run out the door. Is that correct?
I remember asking about Amy Miholovec, but did I ask about Michael Jackson?
Maybe I was using the Michael Jackson analogy with Amy Miholovec. But
Okay.
I want to expound on that some more. And then we're going to talk about Beacon of Speech. You know, who gets freedom of speech? I think we're going to start cutting freedom of speech from people like Bill Cosby. Okay? So I'm putting a star here. Now, Amy Miholovec, let's flesh this out a little bit, okay? If you don't live in Cleveland, Ohio, Amy Miholovec was a 10-year-old girl, 10, 11 years old. She was murdered in a rich Cleveland suburb of Bay Village, Ohio in 1984?
1989.
1989. And neither one of us are suspects, correct?
No.
But it was a case that was never solved. But there was a guy named James Renner, and he worked for a Cleveland Scene. He wrote a book about the Amy Miholovec case, and he was convinced that he knew who killed her. Okay, and I remember reading the article in Scene magazine. And the guy was totally wrapped up in this case. He had done so much research on this case. He was like doing more work than the detectives as far as I could tell, right? Now, the reason that you brought it up on Beacon of Speech was you said, what new evidence do they have?
Right.
After you said that, I watched the news the very next day, and they said, oh, well, the rug has fibers.
Oh, okay. So
And
the rug didn't have fibers.
Oh, yeah, but that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, what do you mean the rug has... All rugs have fibers. What the hell do you mean the rug has fibers? Oh, well, it has fibers that were undisclosed. All rugs have... So I still don't know what the correlation is. They said, well, the shower curtain. The shower curtain, they just realized the shower curtain was bought at a special place. And I'm like, well, what special place was it bought? You could go up to the dollar store and buy a shower curtain for $1. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
But I guess in the Miholovec house, there was a shower curtain that was a specialty shower curtain. Oh, look, our wonderful dog is back. Yay, Kevin. Thank you for interrupting the webcast. Yeah, he's barking at air. So anyhow, I don't have an answer for your question. But
they said there was a blanket and, let's see, a blanket and it wasn't a, well, maybe it was a curtain. It wasn't, I don't think it was a shower curtain, but they said a blanket and a curtain.
Okay.
And I think they said the curtain was homemade.
Yeah.
that's what I assume they found it with her body.
Yeah.
So it wasn't from the Miholovec house.
Right. So, but I still, there didn't seem to be any answers on the news. They're like, it's a big breakthrough, right? And the James Renner story, you know, he had basically isolated who he thought had did it, and it made perfect sense. And the guy who he said did it, he said, you know, God, sorry, I mean to swear. I'm putting the dog out because the dog's barking, and there's like dog poop on the chain. So you pick up with Amy Miholovec while I wash my hands. So anyhow, James Renner is writing about this guy, right? But he's like, oh, quit harassing me. Well, most people who get away with murder, they don't want to be, you know, they want to be left alone. They don't want to be harassed, right?
So James Renner is the guy who wrote a book about Amy Miholovec.
Right, and he's the one who wrote the article in the Cleveland Scene.
Now, by any chance, did he know her? Wasn't he about her age?
Yeah, the reason he wrote it is he was about her age, and he said
he was like went to the same school as her, and
if it wasn't the same school, it was a nearby school,
right.
And he was about her age.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I'm like, you know, the guy he seemed like very diligent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't look like he was in it like Nancy Grace. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about her later.
Nancy Disgrace.
Well, you didn't like Nancy Grace, did you?
No.
Okay. Well, give me. I'm putting down the headset. Tell me of your favorite Nancy Grace memory.
Well, no. Nancy Grace just seems like she's kind of, I don't know, kind of out there. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really don't know that much about her. But she's kind of annoying.
I'm sorry, I got the duck crap off my hand.
Yeah, like I remember several years ago, every time I'd go past that channel, she was talking about, I guess a little kid got murdered, and I think his name was Trenton Duckett, and she kept on saying that, and I'm like, oh my God.
My whole thing with Nancy Grace is that, first of all, I know anything about her, right? And she was very annoying. I would turn it on, and she's like, child killers must be stopped. It's
well,
like,
she has a really tragic story, too.
right.
Didn't she have a fiance who was murdered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she would get on the soapbox like there was people saying, oh no, child killers should be free. She was rallying people like for common sense. There's nobody arguing with her. You know what I mean? Nobody was outside of CNN with signs saying, stop Nancy Grace. We are for child killers. She made it sound like half the population was for the child killers, and half the population was against the child killers. And I'm like, no, I think you're...
So she's creating a controversy that doesn't exist.
Right. She would... And that's the problem, because I feel bad that, you know, her fiancé died, and a lot of these children who died...
Well, why should we have to suffer?
Oh, yeah. But a lot of the children who died, nobody was arguing. You know what I mean? And nobody was saying, oh, she's like, I'm on a crusade for justice. I'm like, there were a few times she literally came out and she was doing the right thing. You know what I mean? There were people against her. But most of the time she was on the soapbox, you know, saying people should be allowed to breathe. Well, yeah, people should be allowed to breathe. Are there people arguing with you that people shouldn't be allowed to breathe? But back to James Renner.
Fred, don't you care about little kids?
Yeah, don't you care about the children? But but James Renner, he did all this thing. He even thought he had it isolated to who the guy was. And now the new evidence, you know, now they're talking about it, but
he didn't name anybody, did he?
Oh, he did. I don't remember the name he used. But the police still haven't used the name. They still haven't arrested anybody. They still haven't charged anybody. Well, how is it news if there's new evidence when I'm still not sure how it's new evidence? Now, Amy Miholovec, she was an innocent 10-year-old girl, right? Nobody, and this is the slippery slope that we're going to start down today. She was an innocent girl, and nobody was out there saying, Amy Miholovec, you know, she was the guilty party. Everybody agrees that she was an innocent victim, right? You know, Nancy Grace, we got to remember Amy. Oh, nobody's, you know. Michael Jackson, okay? It was a rumor that he was a pedophile, right? Why was it a rumor that he was a pedophile?
Because didn't he pay off?
He was paying off families, right? Now, if you're a policeman, and me and you are going to pretend like we're at work too, right? The policeman raided, and this came out after his death. This came out last week, and I wanted to touch about this when we were talking about Amy Miholovec, okay? The police raid Michael Jackson's house, right? Because they have probable cause that he molested children, right?
This was obviously years ago.
Oh, yeah, years ago. 15 years before he died. You raid this house. What's laying all over the house?
Child pornography?
Child pornography. Like in photo albums.
Yeah.
Literally everywhere. Okay? In America, you are innocent until proven guilty. But there's cops all over the house, right? And they are seeing the child pornography. It's not hidden. It's not. This is the days not when it was on the computer. It was all over the house. But because he bought off those certain kids, they went in there and they couldn't say anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what was happening is that they were leaking the story to tabloids like the Sun, the Star, the National Enquirer.
The cops were?
Yes. Yeah. Because they couldn't talk on the record. Well, you don't know what cop it is because literally the Neverland Ranch is chock full, right? And again, this is 15, 20 years later that's coming out. The leaks were coming from the cops because there's child porn everywhere. I mean, it wasn't hidden. It wasn't even, they were like, oh, it's out on the table. You know what I mean? And so Michael Jackson basically used his money to shut everybody up. And if anybody said you're a pedophile, he would sue you. Say you were a cop and you were in his house, and you're like, oh, well, I know you're a pedophile because I saw the photo album on your table, right? Michael Jackson would say, I'm sorry, I'm suing you. You can't say that. You don't know that. Because you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Michael Jackson got over. I mean, he got way over. And when I read the article, they said they're starting to unseal some of this stuff because now he's dead and they can't sue him. You know what I mean? But the estate is like, you know, like Paris Hilton, or not Paris Hilton, I'm sorry, Paris Jackson. She's like, oh no, my dad wasn't a pedophile. He loved us. Well, just because he loved you doesn't mean he wasn't a pedophile.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you go back to the Amy Miholovec case, and I'm like, I assume the Bay Village police, they don't want to name anybody because they can get sued in case they're wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas the Cleveland Scene magazine, you know, they printed the guy's name. You know what I mean? And I'm like, holy crap. And they showed a picture of him, and he said, I'm going to sue you, but then his onus would have to be, you know, he's not Michael Jackson. He doesn't have $1 billion in the bank. You know, Michael Jackson can say, oh no, there's no child porn in my room. You know, they clean it all up and, you know. But
no, one of the things that I wondered about, whoever did that, you know, whoever killed her, you wonder, like, if he ever did that before or since. You know what I mean? Somebody who does stuff like that, I find it hard to believe that they just do it once.
Right. Well, according to the Scene article, they think that the guy who did it, because some people think they know who it is, that he's being watched. He's very paranoid.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So they don't think he's doing it because, you know, if the name's out there, the Bay Village police can't tell, you know, Fox 8, they can't tell News Channel 5, but say the guy lives in Orlando, Florida. He can call the Bay Village Police can call Orlando, Florida, and say, hey, there's a guy, John Doe. We think John Doe killed Amy Miholovec. Keep an eye on him. And, the guy goes outside and he sees cops sitting outside. You see what I'm saying? So it's an interesting way to live.
Yeah.
But, and back to what we do here, because I don't mean to dissect the Amy Miholovec case, because again, if you don't live in Cleveland, you don't know.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what are you allowed to say and what can't you say. Michael Jackson got away with it because he was sitting on $1 billion. And anybody who said we were going to say it, well, that's fundamentally not right. You know what I mean? But Michael Jackson got over. Okay? Now, I don't want to talk about child murder and child porn the whole episode. That would just bum me out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take this away and we're going to put in the political arena. Okay? Well, we're going to spin this out. Okay? Who is Ted voting for in the fall elections that he loves? And he's going to vote for.
I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Right. Now,
but I don't. I never said I loved him.
You love him. You are not going to hear me stick up for Donald Trump, except for in this case. Okay, let's go back because we are the beacon of speech. You doing all right, Quinn? Are we driving you away? Oh, you got your headphones on?
I can't hear anything.
Okay, she can't hear anything. So anyhow, Donald Trump. I am going to stick up for Donald Trump right now. Are you marking this down in your notebook?
Yes.
At the very beginning, when there were 17 people running for the Republican National Convention, okay?
Yes.
What did they do to Donald Trump so we might have to pause this because now there's a dog chasing the ducks. I don't know whose dog that is. We might have to pause this. Oh, that's just Lexi. That's next door. Okay, what happened is we have a neighbor dog, and he's running over, and the neighbor dog is not familiar with ducks. So he's chasing the ducks. Now the ducks are shaking and running by the door. Isn't that sad, Ted?
Yeah, it is. Are they okay?
The other one looks a little shaken up. I mean, the dog didn't do anything. Now the dog's going to pee and mark his territory, and then Kevin will go run and pee in the same spot, and then he'll start crying. And by the way, Kevin is not my kid. Kevin is our dog, our dumb dog. And both ducks are by the house. So, all right. I think the crisis is averted. Okay, so the ducks are right there. We're cool with that. I'm sorry, this is riveting radio, isn't it? People are like, what happened to the ducks? We have 2 Peking ducks. And believe it or not, they're actually fairly well trained and they don't leave the yard. So, there's Kevin peeing where the dog was, and then the other dog's going back, the neighbor's calling the dog. So, as long as it doesn't eat the ducks, we're okay. And Kevin's wrapping himself up because he's all spun into a circle. So... Oh, here comes the dog again. Now the ducks are freaking out. Here come the ducks. Oh, there the dogs are sniffing each other. Hey ducks, you want to be on the mic? Can you hear the ducks on the microphone? I can hear them clear as day. You think you can hear the ducks on the microphone? Because right now I can reach out and touch the ducks. That's how close I am to them.
Maybe not.
Okay, well, this is riveting play-by-play. So anyhow...
There's another dog.
Oh yeah, that other dog. He's fenced in. I'm not worried about him.
Does he ever bark?
Oh yeah, he barks all the time. All the dogs in our neighborhood, they all have a secret code and drive each other crazy.
Oh,
our dog.
The neighbor dog is doing number 2 in your yard.
Yeah, that's okay.
That is number 2, right?
Yes. Yeah, so they're all marking each other's territory and sniffing each other, and it's great radio, isn't it?
Now, Kevin took umbrage with that.
Yeah, he doesn't mind. He doesn't mind the dog peeing in there, but don't poop in his yard. And then later he will eat it because again, Kevin is a nice dog. If you want a good dog, like good with your family, and
Kevin will eat that later?
Oh yeah, he's dumb. Kevin is a dumb dog. He's nice. Like nice temperament-wise, but Kevin might be the stupidest dog I ever met.
Well, maybe he won't be so nice after hearing that.
Yeah, he's probably going to come and pee on my... One time I called Ted and I was like, the dog peed on my uniform. I'm going to throw him out the door. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I'm like, oh, he's going to get it. So anyhow, where were we? Oh, okay. So Donald Trump, okay? There's 17 Republicans, and they're all on the stage. Oh, I'm sorry, they had 6 at the first debate and then 11 at the second debate, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that very first debate, they tried to trick Donald Trump, right? And they said, Donald Trump, will you support the Republican nominee?
Yes, I remember that.
Is that correct?
That was here, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was. And Donald Trump said, I will support the Republican nominee as long as there's no dirty tricks, correct? And then the second
As
debate...
long as I'm treated fairly.
As long as I'm treated fairly, correct. And then at the second debate, he took the pledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the first debate, 16 of them took the pledge. And then the 17th one, which was Donald Trump, he took the pledge at the second debate, correct? Yeah, Quinn's wandering around outside. So, why is that important 1 year later?
Why is that important?
Yeah.
Well, there's a process. You bring up a good point. That the 16 other people said in the first debate that they would support the nominee.
Right.
Donald Trump is going to be the nominee.
Right.
And are all 16 going to support him?
No, and that's the story I read. That Donald Trump said, and and I'm going to agree with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because they were all a jerk to him and said, you better support us when we win. You know, you better not go third party. And then he won. So Donald Trump pulled it out of his hat today, or not today, this week. He said, if you took that pledge and you don't support me, you should never run for office again.
Yeah.
Jeb Bush, if you don't support me, you have no credibility and you should never run for office again because you took the oath, you took the pledge to support the Republican nominee. And if you're not going to be a good foot soldier for the Republican Party, then you should not run under the Republican banner again. He's singled out 2 people specifically. Number 1 was Jeb Bush. Number 2 was Lindsey Graham. And he said, Lindsey Graham, if you don't support me, after you took the pledge to support the Republican nominee, he goes, I'll get my people. Now, Donald Trump, as much as I don't like him, and this is beacon of speech and action, just because I don't like Donald Trump doesn't mean he's not right. He's absolutely right. I hope that Jeb Bush, because, you know, Jeb Bush is just like that guy Steve that we talk about. You know what I mean? You support me when I'm in charge, but if you're in charge, I ain't supporting you. Screw you. And that's how Jeb Bush rolls. So if he doesn't support, I think they should impeach Jeb Bush. They'd take away, let Jeb Bush run for Florida governor, third party, if he doesn't support the Republican nominee. So would you agree with me?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
And
I think I said it on here that my first choice was Ted Cruz.
Right.
Donald Trump wasn't my first choice.
Right.
But if I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, but if the Republican Party tries to pull something where they take the nomination away from him somehow,
Right.
I won't vote for whoever they put in there.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's Ted Cruz.
And I read another story just today that Romney is still trying to figure out how to get on the ballot. And I'm like, it's too late.
Yeah.
You're 4 years too late. You don't get to skip the primary, skip everything, and then say, I still want to be president.
And
but...
you know another argument I can't stand?
Go ahead.
People who say, yeah, 60% of the people voted against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a higher percentage voted against everybody else.
Yes. Yeah, what
And then-
percentage voted against Jeb Bush?
And then if they bring Mitt Romney in, yeah, guess how many people voted for him? 0.
yeah, 95.
So how is that fair?
Yeah, 95% of the people voted against Jeb Bush. And like I said, he's all about, I'm a good Republican. No, dumbass, you took the pledge. You're the one who made Donald Trump. Of anybody there who was probably strong-arming Trump to take the pledge the most was Jeb Bush. So Jeb Bush, you don't take the pledge, you don't get to run under the Republican banner anymore. I'm glad Trump said something. And this is the allure of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says what he means and means what he says. Now, he might change his mind 10 minutes later, and that's why I can't vote for him, and the whole I'm not voting for Trump. But in this particular instance, I agree with him.
You're voting for Gary Johnson.
I'm voting for Gary Johnson. And I wrote an article about Gary Johnson.
Now, if you had to choose between Trump and Hillary,
No,
what would you do?
I'm going to probably kill myself. Because as far as I'm concerned, Hillary Clinton is a criminal.
Yeah.
Okay? She's a...
Crooked Hillary.
Well, I read an article this week. It was about Roseanne Barr. Okay? And Roseanne Barr said everybody knew... And this will take us into our next topic. And she said everybody knew Bill Cosby was a rapist for 30 years. She goes, and you know how old Roseanne Barr is, right? She's probably in her 50s, 60s.
Yeah, oh yeah.
She said, when I was the domestic goddess, even before I got my show, and I was doing stand-up, people would tell me stories, stay away from Bill Cosby, he's a rapist. Right? And she said it was common knowledge. And then she came out and she goes, there's another guy just as bad as Bill Cosby, his name's Louis C.K. And I'm like, holy cow, she just named his name. Right? And the article was
just as bad in the same way?
Yeah. And she said, like, harassing women and doing despicable things to them. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah. So she's like, it's not just Bill Cosby. But she goes, nobody cares until it's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until somebody's willing to put their reputation on the line to confront them.
But why did it take this long? I guess I'm always hung up on why something takes decades.
Well,
When it's common knowledge. Bill Cosby.
yeah.
All these cases are...
Well, a lot of the Bill Cosby ones where the women were unsure.
They weren't sure.
They weren't sure because they were drugged. And they would go to the police and they would be like, I think something happened. I woke up. Everything was askew. Things weren't right. And I think Bill Cosby raped me. And they're like, well, Bill Cosby's worth $1 billion. You can't say you think somebody worth $1 billion raped you. He either did or didn't. And they're like, well, I don't really remember. Right? Well, so all these police departments were like, well, we can't, you know what a nightmare it's going to be? Again, the Steve theory. You know how hard it's going to be for me to prove that Bill Cosby raped you? Just go home, for God's sake. And so it's the same principle. But I'm also, since I'm taking sides with people I don't like, I'm going to take sides with Bill Cosby, too. Now, Bill Cosby shouldn't have done what he did. I'm not excusing any of that, okay? But this week it also came out. This girl, she went to Bill Cosby and said, if you don't give me X amount of dollars, and I don't know what the X is, okay? But if you don't give me X amount of dollars, I'm going to the police because I know you raped me, right? Bill Cosby goes, oh, let's not get the police involved. How about if I give you X amount of dollars and you could use this to, further your acting career? Let's not call it hush money. Let's call it
a gift.
Let's call it a help. We're like a gift, yes. Okay? So that happened in 2005. She took the money, whatever it is, $10,000, $1 million. I don't know what it is. And they didn't say what it was. Okay? So she took that in 2005, and then there was a couple of years ago, they were doing rape investigations, and they went to this lady, we'll call her Miss X, and they said, what do you know about Bill Cosby? And she goes, oh yeah, he paid me off. He raped me, and then he paid me off, so I wouldn't talk. Right? So Bill Cosby this week, since apparently this is the courtroom edition of Beacon of Speech, Bill Cosby went back to that girl and he's suing her to get his money back because he said, I paid for your silence and then you talked to this other investigation. Yeah. And she's like, no, you said it was a gift. And he's like, oh, no, it was a gift under the understanding that there'd be silence involved, right? So he's suing her, right? Which is funny that the guy who raped her is now suing her. But in Bill Cosby's defense, let's say that woman didn't take the money. Let's say that she was so traumatized.
So the rapist is suing for defamation.
Right. The rapist is suing for defamation, right? But when you have money, this is what happens. You see what I'm saying? Bill Cosby is like, well, I want my money back because you didn't.
Wait a minute. Let me correct that. The alleged.
Yeah, alleged rapist. Yeah, we don't want to be sued here at Beacon of Speech. We don't want to play fast and loose with the rules. So Bill Cosby turned around and said, now I'm suing you because you did not give me silence in exchange for my money. Now, that takes a stone set of balls. That's a brass set right there. You know what I mean? But he has a point. If that girl would have said, there is no money that you can give me, I'm going to the police and you're going to jail, he probably wouldn't have kept raping women. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I can kind of see the other side of the coin. Where it's like, well,
wouldn't it be funny with all Bill Cosby's problems right now if he did end up suing us?
Well, that's the whole thing. His defense team is like throwing everything against the wall. You know what I mean? And the whole thing is he's 78. You know what I mean?
And is he blind now or
no,
close
but
to it?
He doesn't have good eyesight. But at 78, how much more is he going to be doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The time to stop him was when the first allegations go back to like 1965. Yeah. Okay? The time to stop him was when he was 28.
Yeah.
If you stop him when he's 78, you don't get any points for that.
Yeah, he's probably safe now. I mean, he's probably harmless now.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, you stopped him from doing what? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like a good job for doing things 50... because we keep bashing on Steve, right? It's like when he did that Gary situation. It took him 15 years to solve it. You don't get points for doing something 15 years late. You know what I mean? Same thing with Bill Cosby. You don't get points for finally busting him 50 years after the first allegation. Oh, well, you don't understand. It was a different time. No, it was a lot easier to bust people 50 years ago for this stuff. And again, it doesn't go back to black or white. It goes back to green. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't stop this guy. Do you know how much he's got lawyers?
Like I said, it's just amazing when you look back at the early to mid 80s and how big Michael Jackson was.
Yep.
How big Bill Cosby was.
Huh?
And Prince. Mm-hmm. And look at how they end up.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way: Prince was not a criminal.
No, I'm just saying the sad.
Oh yeah,
the sad.
Because it seems like there's been a ton in the news about Michael Jackson and Prince because apparently they didn't like each other, and I've read 2 stories about how Prince and Michael Jackson thought of them each other as rivals. You know what I mean? Whereas Michael was this. It's basically common knowledge he was a pedophile, right? But, you can't say it. You have to go with the allegedly, even though these stories are leaking out all over the place. You know what I mean? But, Prince was a genius, but sometimes he was a jerk. But a lot of geniuses are jerks. You know what I mean? Ted's shaking his head. But, yeah, it's weird when you're in the 80s, Bill Cosby was arguably the biggest TV star.
Oh yeah,
on TV.
The Cosby Show.
And at different times in the 80s, there was nothing bigger than Prince or Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And that's why it's amazing how the stories end. You know what I mean?
And like the Cosby Show, they're not running that anymore.
They were, but once the allegations came up, I think it was Nick at Night said they were taking the Cosby. Well, guess what? The Cosby Show's 40 years old. It don't matter now. The money's made.
So they're locking the barn door after the...
The horse is in another state. And they're like, we're locking the barn door now. No more horses are getting out. But Roseanne Barr, she's just hammering away on Bill Cosby. And she's like, we knew the whole time. And when she says we, she doesn't mean her and Seinfeld and Jay Leno. She means her and other women comics. But she said a lot of women comics didn't become Roseanne Barr. They were writers, they were producers, and she said a lot of, they all knew to stay away from Bill Cosby. She said it was common knowledge. And this is not me, this is Roseanne Barr. And that's why when she's out there just bashing on people, and she's like, Louis C.K.'s next. You know what I mean? I was reading that, I think it was either Daily Mail or CNN, and I was stunned. Because I'm like, why isn't something getting done that way? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Once it got out that Bill Cosby was a rapist, all of a sudden all these women, 60 women jumped out, he's a rapist. Well, where have you been? Oh, and then each story was very similar. My agent told me not to report it. It would be bad for my career. The police said it would be a lot of work. But
a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, we got all this crime to do.
Don't you understand how busy I am?
Yeah, don't you see how busy? It's funny because, we knew somebody who used to say that all the time. And I don't think he did any work. I think he was turning in a Jabba the Hutt there. So... But yeah, Bill Cosby's like, well, I paid for silence. I didn't get silence. You know what I mean? You know what, Bill Cosby? Maybe you should be quiet. Maybe you shouldn't say anything. He's already got a PR nightmare. You know what I mean? At some point, at 78 years old, and I'm not saying what he did is right or wrong or true or false, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you got to be like, you know what? I got to leave the public eye, and I'm just going to go die somewhere. You know what I mean?
I mean, if all these allegations are true,
right.
It's just funny how. Remember, he would always get on Eddie Murphy for not being.
Oh yeah.
It's just funny. Somebody who
the
is
great
allegedly,
irony.
allegedly doing,
Well, that's the whole thing. Let's say there's 50. Okay, say there's 50. Okay, half those women are gold diggers, and the other half are telling the truth. That's still horrible! It's still 25 that are telling the truth. And, Bill Cosby's like, oh, no, I didn't rape those 18 women. I raped those 30 women, but I didn't rape those 18 other women. Those 18 are liars. You can start throwing numbers around, but there's got to be something to it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... I mean, no matter what the outcome is, it's sad.
Yeah. There is no happy ending.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, even if all those women are lying,
yeah.
It's sad that they're putting him through that.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
But
it's just...
Well, again, after reading the Roseanne Barr story, I don't believe for a second that he didn't do most of it. Okay, I'm not going to say all of it, but I have no doubts that he did most of that. You know what I mean? And again, with the grand conspiracy, it's hard to get, 50 people to agree on anything. You know what I mean? How are you going to find 50 random women that come out with similar stories? You know what I mean? It's not like they all went to the same fraternity or something.
So has Louis C.K. said anything about what Roseanne
They
Barr...
said he is suspiciously quiet. But again, comedians, that's what they do. They all shoot off to their mouths. They're all like, oh, if I was Roseanne... if Louis C.K. didn't do it, the smartest thing to come out and say, Roseanne Barr hasn't been funny since 1994. Or whatever. But no, he doesn't say anything. Because the reason Roseanne Barr said it is because there was another lady comedian who said Louis C.K. did inappropriate things on her podcast, which is literally like me or you saying it. Roseanne Barr said, oh yeah, even, this person said it. And then, because she didn't want to get sued, not Roseanne Barr, but the girl comedian who originally said it, she deleted the podcast because she didn't want to get sued.
Yeah.
So again, did you not want to get sued because you didn't want the aggravation, because it wasn't true? You see what I'm saying?
Do you know who that lady was?
Oh, I knew. It was some comedian I never heard of. It was Jen something or another.
Yeah.
But it was a comedian I had never heard of. It wasn't someone who was well known. She was well known enough to have a podcast, but I know Ted would be like, well, we have a podcast. Yeah. And like I said, Donald Trump's going to sue us, Donald Trump would agree with us today, but who would sue us today?
Well,
Cosby?
Speaking of Donald Trump...
Say Bill Cosby sued us today,
Which he probably will.
If Bill Cosby sued us today, I'm not deleting the podcast. I'll see you in hell, Bill Cosby,
one of the things, speaking of Donald Trump, we haven't heard anything yet from his people, right?
Right.
Now, I was thinking, just to make it convenient for Donald Trump, the convention is here. So that week, if he wants to stop over, and do the show,
Ted, you are exactly right. What minute mark are we? We're on that mark. We have to. If Donald Trump wants to come do Beacon of Speech, you can contact Fred or Ted at beaconofspeech@gmail.com. Right. You can find me on Facebook. You can go to Beacon of Speech. Right. And you can find ways to contact me and Ted, right? Right now, we're in North Ridgeville. Last week, we were in Garfield Heights, both suburbs of Cleveland, right? When you are in Cleveland for the convention, what days are those conventions?
I know Carl knows what days the conventions are.
I think it's 18th.
You know why I said that.
Oh, yeah, because he took off. July 18th.
It's that week?
I think it is. Maybe not. But if you want...
No, you're probably right. The 18th is a Monday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right.
So you can come during the convention, and we won't do it, during when people are speaking, important people. He can do it on an off-hours interview, and he could come and talk to me or Ted. And I trust you in my equipment. If for some reason I'm not available, you and Donald Trump can do the webcast together. So, yes, that offer's open, and... we were talking about it at your house.
So, in other words, Donald Trump can just, not only I can interview him, but he can do the webcast?
Yeah.
Take your place for that?
Yeah, he could take my place for the webcast if he wants. And if he wants to talk about court cases, or he wants to talk about the Cavs or whatever, he can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I just thought it would be very convenient that week,
Yeah. Because this week, I did stick up for Donald Trump. I'm not voting for him, but I did stick up for him.
See that? See that, Donald? You got one guy who's voting for you.
Yeah.
And you got another guy who
sticks up for him despite hating him.
Who might be on the fence.
Well, I'm not. But yeah, you know what? I said I would kill myself. Who would you vote for, Hillary or Donald Trump? I would kill myself.
Yeah.
I would vote for Donald Trump over Jeb Bush. Okay? And reason being is because I read an article. They were talking about Jeb Bush and how the American people didn't understand the opportunity they missed by not voting for him. And I just get this sense of entitlement from the Bush family. Like, everybody could grow up to be president. My brother was president. My dad was president. You know what I'm saying? I really get a sense of entitlement from Jeb Bush. Like it like seeps through.
Yeah.
And that guy just rubs me the wrong way.
I mean, in a way, you could almost see his point that he feels entitled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, hey, you elected my father and my brother. Why not me?
Yeah.
It's
Fine. I'd be a better president than my brother.
and in a way, it's kind of sad because maybe he would be better than either one of them. But there's a lot of people in this country who just won't give him a chance because enough is enough already.
Yeah. Again, and I've said this before. This is part of the reason I vote for a third party. There's 300 million people in this country. And take Donald Trump out of it, okay? We'll come back to him, okay? But Jeb Bush was the son of a president. Hillary was the wife of a president, right? Donald Trump, he was a real estate magnate, and, his dad was a real estate magnate, and, what was it? He gave Donald $1 million as a Head Start money, right? I'm tired of those people running the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people could be like, well, Bill Clinton came in and he pulled himself up from his bootstrap. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm not talking about Bill Clinton. I'm talking about, my friend is going to be president next. My wife's going to be president next. You know what? It's someone else's turn.
Mm-hmm.
And Obama, I'm not a big Obama fan either. But at least he came from, I got the impression that Obama did not get the job because he was related to somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But, who's to say in tenure, Michelle Obama's not like, oh, I'd be a good... Oh, no. Once Obama's done, you and your family, you go away,
Yeah.
and then someone else gets a turn. Just like after George Bush was president, your family had their turn, you move out. Bill Clinton had his turn, he did it for 8 years, go back to Arkansas. You see what I'm saying? I remember Amy Carter, Jimmy Carter's daughter, said that she hated the White House, and she would never even think of doing anything political. She just wanted to stay away from Washington, D.C. You know what I mean?
Well, as far as I know, she's done a good job.
Because you never hear of Amy
you
Carter.
never hear anything about her.
Yeah. And she said, it's not hard. She goes, you just stay away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like... You take your turn, you run the country for 4 or 8 years, and then you go away. All these people who want to hang around, oh, my brother, and they get the hell out of here. You got your turn.
Well, I'm thinking I think she's my age.
Yes.
Amy Carter.
Yes.
So when Jimmy Carter was in the White House, she was, 10, 12 years old?
Yeah. And the other thing about that is that, I think they said Amy Carter was the last, presidential child go to a public school. Jimmy Carter was like, oh, I'm not above sending my daughter to a public school, and then she had a horrible time because it's Washington, D.C. schools.
Yeah.
So... Those Obama kids, they ain't going to
Jimmy
no
Carter's
public
a
school.
great guy, and sending her to a public school.
Yeah.
She's the one who has to deal with it, not him.
Yeah.
He's not making a sacrifice.
But you know what? Everything I've ever come across has said that Jimmy Carter was a great guy, just not a great president.
Yeah.
He didn't know his way around Washington. Well, guess what? You come in, you do your turn, you go home, like Jimmy Carter. Go build houses in the Nairobi or whatever.
Well, I think from what I read, part of his problem was, I think when he was running and then when he got in, he didn't want to play the Washington game.
Yeah.
And they all basically gave him the finger because of that. Even his own party.
Well, but that's going to happen to Gary Johnson, too.
Yeah.
And that's why you need a guy who, not as nice as Jimmy Carter, who's like, oh, well, I'm not saying Gary Johnson will turn it around, but I'm hoping he'll be like, you know what, so screw you guys. You know what I mean? I know that Bill Weld, the guy who's running with Gary Johnson, he's like that.
What's his name?
I believe it's Bill Weld.
Weld?
W-E-L-D. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I just know Gary Johnson's at the top of the ticket. I'm sorry, I don't know who the Libertarian vice presidential candidate is. I came on the radio unprepared, Ted. I apologize. This week, talking about the 70s, we're talking about Jimmy Carter, right? Guess what I saw this week? I'll give you a hint. I'm covering up this outline. See what that says right there?
Star Wars.
Yes, I saw Star Wars 7, The Force Awakens, a year after everybody else.
You saw that?
Yep, well, not Rogue One. I saw the new one, Star Wars 7. This is another Star Wars movie that's coming out this fall.
Did you go like to the theater to see that?
No. I got it on DVD. Let me ask you some questions, because you've never seen it, so I'm going to ruin it for you, right? Star Wars 7, The Force Awakens, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one that has Han Solo and Luke Skywalker back in it, okay?
That's the one that broke all kinds of records.
Oh, broke every record ever, right? Now, you saw the original Star Wars in 1977.
Yeah, but I don't really remember it.
That's okay. When you saw it, you said you didn't really remember because you thought it was okay, but not great, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably 9 or 10 years old. So.
All right. I loved it. I saw it 8. I was like a normal kid. I saw it 8 times, and when it came on VCR, I watched it again. Okay? So I watched the new Star Wars The Force Awakens. It was really good, Ted. Ted's shaking his head. Because you know there's a catch.
It was really good, but...
It was really good, but it might have been one of the most predictable movies I've ever seen in my life, because basically they took the Star Wars from 1977, took the characters that you knew, shook it up in a box, and then told the same story. Okay? So instead of Obi-Wan being the old Jedi hermit, guess who the new Jedi hermit is? Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. And I'm not ruining it. It's a year after it came out. But the movie was so predictable. Okay? Other than the guy who was the stormtrooper who couldn't stand killing people. And I'm telling you, in the next movie, they're going to come out and say it's Lando Calrissian's son. Okay? That was the most predictable movie I have ever seen. And don't get me wrong, it was a good movie. Okay? But it was Star Wars, and they rehashed it. Okay? And George Lucas...
How long was that movie?
It was about 2 hours. George Lucas said, that's not the direction I would have went in it. Well, guess what, George Lucas? You sold that for $4 billion. If you wanted to tell that story, you had 40 years to tell that story. You don't get to say, again, it's just like the Bill Cosby. 40 years later. That's when I had the idea about Star Wars 7. That's not what I wanted. Well, guess what? Too late. Go count your money in a hole somewhere. That's not the story I would have told. Yeah. They paid you $4 billion to retell your story and for you to shut up about it. Basically, they paid for George Lucas' silence. They should ask for his money back. George, we didn't tell you to critique the new movie. We'll take that $4 billion back. And don't get me wrong, it was good. I liked the new girl.
So in this scenario, is George Lucas, is he? I'm trying to think. Is George Lucas Bill Cosby, or is he the woman?
No. He's kind of poor. He's kind of like the woman, where he's like, "Oh, I'll take your payout," but that's not what I would have done. Well, guess what? You shouldn't have taken the payout then. Maybe you should have made a new Star Wars. Maybe you should have made a new Star Wars instead of stringing people along for 20 years.
Yeah, that's.
And again, in the original trilogy that he made second, Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, that was all garbage. If George Lucas really wrote 9 Star Wars, right? And then
Now, are you talking about, when you say the trilogy 1, 2, and 3, are you talking about Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi?
I'm talking episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Okay, if that's really what he wrote, and then he made 4, 5, and 6 first because he thought those were better, there were so many plot holes all over the place that he should be
But
shot.
The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, those are sequels, aren't they?
Those are 4, 5, and 6.
Those are 4, 5, and 6?
Yes. In George Lucas's mind, and this is the folklore, he did 9 Star Wars, right? And he named them episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Star Wars was episode 4. Okay?
The one that came out first was
Yeah.
episode 4.
Right. Because in his head, the first 3 were kind of boring, and then Star Wars episode 4 was the most exciting, so that's why he started there. I don't believe for a second that he had written 1, 2, and 3 first, and then wrote like 1, 2. There's no way he wrote them in order. I think he tried to scam people and say, oh, no. I have 9 of these written. You know what I mean?
No wonder people are on drugs.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole thing.
Everything is so complicated.
Yeah. Now, this is what I have written, because I don't want to talk about George Lucas, because that's, some nerd, our one listener is going to go, oh, you don't understand the genius of George Lucas.
Our one listener is going to complain.
Yeah. I'm not listening to you anymore if you're going to badger George Lucas. He's a genius. This is what I have written, okay?
Our one listener is going to revolt.
Yeah, our one listener. I wrote Blasphemers, okay? I had 150 pages, and then I ran out of time. And so only 120 are in the film. I still have 30 pages, so I have an outline for Blasphemers 2, okay? It's written down on the computer. It's 2 pages long, and the rest outlines in my head, okay? I have Blasphemers 3. I have that outline in my head, okay? And I just know where characters want to go, right? And then I also want to make a movie. I want to make the best zombie cartoon ever, okay? And there's a cartoon on Adult Swim called Metalocalypse, okay? I want to find the people who did that, and I want them to make an hour-and-a-half cartoon zombie movie, and that's in my head too, okay? So anything else that I say, like when it comes to movies, you know how much I have written on a piece of paper for all those rest of the movies? 2 pages, Ted. Those movies are in my head, but they're not written down. And it's the same thing with George Lucas. George Lucas was probably like, oh, no, I have not. I have 12 movies. I have 15 movies. They're all in my head. Okay? But so that's why I know that guy, he's a big flim-flam artist. That's all he is. He's like, oh, no. When I was in college, you had time in college to write 9 screenplays.
What else did he do?
He did American Graffiti.
That's what I thought.
And then he was still doing other movies before Star Wars. And then after the first 3 he did, he was doing other movies because he's like, I don't want to be known as the Star Wars guy. But I can't even remember one movie he did besides Star Wars afterwards. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
George Lucas is like a president. You did Star Wars, now go away. Now, on our last episode, we talked about the Cavs, right? And they won the championship. Now, who is our adopted team? Who's our adopted sports team for baseball this season?
The Cleveland Indians.
The Cleveland Indians. Now, the Cleveland Indians have not lost since the Cavs won the championship, right?
Did they win today?
That I don't know.
Because it was an extra innings.
That I don't know.
And it was like, I think, the 17th inning.
I just know that they were on a 13-game winning streak.
Yes.
It was since the Cavs won. They went on a 13-game winning streak. They haven't won 13 in a row since 1951.
Yeah.
So you picked the right team. They're doing great. They're doing fabulous. And I saw something online this week. It said Cleveland, City of Champions, because the Monsters won, the Cavs won, the Indians on a 13-game winning streak, and that UFC guy who we can't remember his name.
Well, no, I just don't know it. It's not that I can't remember it.
I don't know it or remember it. So we're doing good.
Yeah, I just wonder if this is just going to open up the floodgates.
I hope so. That would be nice. It would be nice to win it. And I'm not saying we have to win every year.
Oh, before I forget, did you hear the Johnny Manziel news?
No. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll tell you what I heard.
He's suspended for 4 games.
Yes.
The first 4 games next season.
That I did hear.
And he's suspended even though nobody has signed him.
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
But yes, because
So this is just in case somebody signs him.
Yeah.
Let it be known that he'll be suspended.
I was listening to a sportscaster on ESPN, and he said, this is the league being vindictive. And they said, the NFL might as well suspend, and I don't remember what ESPN guy was. He said, they might as well have suspended me. I'm not playing. I don't have a contract in the NFL. He goes, you can't suspend a guy with no contract. He said that's overkill. Right? Now, when he wants to come back and when he wants to try out for a team, then you can suspend him. But they said the pile on is fundamentally not right. And they said, you can suspend anybody. They said, I suspend this baseball player for using PEDs. And they said the NFL is just showing how heavy-handed they are. And they said the reason is because Johnny Manziel, they have a picture of him smoking a marijuana cigarette. So they said he did it while wearing a Cleveland Browns jersey, even though he didn't have a contract with the Browns.
So this is like relatively recent?
Yeah, this week. So part of the reason they're doing the overkill is they're saying that he's harming the image of the league. It's like, I don't have a contract with you. You can piss off. You know what I mean? Now, Johnny Manziel screwed because, and I've said this before, he's going to have to go to the CFL. There's just no two ways about it. Okay? He's like plutonium right now. Okay? But the sportscaster on ESPN, again, he had a good point. You're suspending somebody with no contract in the NFL. That's just overkill. You can't suspend somebody who doesn't. That's like me getting suspended from Iron Mountain. You know what, Fred? In case you decided you wanted to come back, you're suspended for 2 weeks. If we decide to rehire you, you're suspended for 2 weeks. Guess what? I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to claw out your eyeballs. You know what I mean? It's absurd. So I understand what he's saying, but you know what? He's not under contract. Because I guess this week I saw he came out and said he's going to party until July 1st, and then he's going to stop because he's got to get ready. Well, when you said, did you hear the latest news?
He's got to get ready for his suspension.
When you said, have you heard the latest news, I thought you were going to tell me more because he was partying all week, and they got the picture of him with the marijuana, right? And he came out and said, well, I'm going to party right up till July 1st, and then it's time to get back to work. So, because today is July 1st, I thought you were going to tell me, like, oh, he's been clean for 12 hours. Yeah. Or, oh, hey, guess what? He didn't get clean. He meant July 2nd.
Yeah, really, this might be a big week for him.
Yeah. But again, I think they were trying to get ahead of the situation, but again, this is a league.
Well, what I'm saying is, keep an eye on the news because maybe he tried to get everything in yesterday and
this stuff's still leaking out on Instagram and stuff.
Well, I mean, hopefully he's alive.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't, go overboard.
I think hopefully he's alive is overstating it. You don't want anybody to die, but, it's...
Well, I mean, why stop before July 4th? I mean, isn't he going to want to party on July 4th? Why not pick July 5th?
Well, you could pick, that's the whole thing. You could pick any day. You know what I mean? Well, I got to be sober for when I light off the fireworks that are as big as TNT sticks. Oh, I got to tell you a funny story. I probably shouldn't tell you. Quinn, don't listen to us.
What?
Good job.
I can't hear.
Okay. my brother-in-law, okay, he on social media he went out and he bought a Stars and Bars, the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And he said that he's tired of people attacking the Confederate flag, and he just wants to know that he supports the Confederate flag, and then he wrapped himself in it. And he posted it as his profile.
He did that a while ago, didn't he?
Yeah, but this was a little more over the top. And I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't. I shouldn't talk because right now I'm unemployed. I might have a job, but we don't want to jinx that. But he should be worried more about getting a job.
Oh, he's not working
No,
right now?
he's still not working. So
How long has he not been working?
we are not talking about that on Beacon of Speech. We'll leave that open ended. So back to Johnny Manziel. So Johnny Manziel is suspended even though he has no team. But again, it's like two wrong. The old saying that your mom used to tell you when you were a kid. Two wrongs don't make it right. Well, Johnny Manziel shouldn't be going off the deep end, but the NFL shouldn't be beating a guy while he's down. You know what I mean? While you're down there, we're just going to keep kicking you. So that's why I don't know. It's just a sad case all the way around. Just like Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? There's lots of wrong to go around. And I'm not saying the girl was wrong. I'm just saying, there's certain things that money buys. You see what I'm saying?
Now, what's the latest on Josh Gordon?
Dad,
Yes.
you have a Word document up? Can I X off of it?
Yeah,
if
just
I
make
see
sure
it?
you save it.
Okay.
The latest on Josh Gordon is nothing. But the Instagram post where Johnny Manziel is smoking marijuana, clear as day, whose jersey do you think he's wearing?
Is it Josh Gordon?
Josh Gordon's jersey. Yeah. So again, I think that's part of the reason the NFL was so mad. You see what I'm saying? Like he was really sticking it in their eye. Like, hey, I'm wearing a Cleveland Browns jersey. Well, it's the same thing like the ESPN reporter was saying. If I don't do drugs, okay? I don't do marijuana or anything, okay? But again, use the premise. If I smoke marijuana, okay, and then I'm wearing an NFL jersey, the NFL can't suspend me. I don't have a contract with them. They could go sit and spin. Okay? It's the same thing with Johnny Manziel. Who cares whose jersey I'm wearing? You know what I mean? Now, again, if I worked for the Browns, well, there's certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. But it's the same thing that, the corporations do to manage the message. Well, the NFL doesn't. There is no contract with Johnny Manziel. If they don't like what he's doing, that's fine. But he's not under contract with them.
Who's the commissioner?
Goodell.
Goodell. Wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if Johnny Manziel was smoking a joint, wearing a Goodell? It's Roger Goodell, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, wasn't it
wearing a Roger Goodell mask?
Wasn't it? Well, this has been going on for forever. In the 1984 Bears, right? Is it the 84 Bears or 85 Bears that won the Super Bowl and killed everybody?
85, yeah.
85 Bears. Wasn't it that year that they tried to, that Jim McMahon?
Yeah, he would wear headbands.
He'd wear the headbands. Yeah. And they said, you can't wear the headbands. And then one day he wore a headband that said Roselle.
Yeah.
Because he was the commissioner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been going on, the individual versus the machine for a long time. But when, again...
at the time, I didn't think that was funny because I didn't like them.
Oh, I thought it was hysterical. I remember...
I didn't like Jim McMahon. I didn't like the Bears. But now, it's like, I think that's funny.
Yeah.
But at the time, I thought, he's just a jerk,
Yeah.
Because I didn't like him. Not necessarily because of what he did.
Right.
I just didn't like him.
But now they have the fashion police. They actually have... The NFL pays one person to make sure everybody's in uniform, or else they get fined.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we have endorsement deals. We have corporate sponsorships. If you think about it, how absurd that is. You see what I'm saying? Just how absurd it is that there's fashion police for football. Because of corporate sponsorships. This is America. That should not exist. But again, do you like cashing that $1 million paycheck? Well, yeah, I do. Well, then, we're going to have to agree to disagree, or however you want to put it. But you're not telling me I don't have a contract with the NFL. You go pound salt. And like I said, I'm going to say it once, I'll say it again. The NFL is king in 2016, right? If I'm still doing this in 30 years, I'm pretty sure I'll be dead. But if we're still doing this in 30 years, I'm telling you, the NFL is not going to be king. They are squeezing blood out of the rock right now. You see what I'm saying? They are
So
not going to be the king.
you still think the NFL is going to end up like boxing?
They are basically in the curve, right? The NFL today is what boxing was in about 1984. Because when Mike Tyson was coming up, that was the beginning of the end for boxing. Not because of Mike Tyson, but because of the violence.
Yeah, that just marked it. It wasn't because of him.
Yeah, it was basically, I think boxing, a lot of it had to do with all the corrupt things. But I think the thing that put the nail in the coffin was that Dooku Kim. And we've talked about that on the Webcast.
That was bad. I remember that.
But all the just blatant, wrong decisions and everything. Like I said, boxing ate itself. And the NFL is to the point with the Johnny Manziel thing, and this isn't the tipping point, but the absurdity of it is like the absurdity of boxing around 1980, where they're like, well, what are you going to do? It's boxing. Boxing's king of the hill. You know what I mean? And then we'll gouge people and we'll make them pay $40 a fight, and we won't put any of it on TV. You know what I mean? Oh, then all of a sudden they left. They're like, whoa, where are you going? Again, I cannot stress enough. Me and my family, we went up to the Fairview Park fields this past week, right? And they have the field line for football, right? And then they have the field line for soccer. White lines for football, yellow lines for soccer, and then there's blue lines. And, my friend Cliff, right?
Mm-hmm.
His daughter says to me, she goes, Fred, what's the blue lines for? And I said, I don't know. I'm not familiar with blue lines on a field. And this is in Fairview, right? And I said, do you know what blue lines on a football field are?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Blue lines on a football field? No.
And I said, I don't know. And I asked her, I said, is that for the band? Because I remember Brunswick had their own, when I was in high school, they had their own band practice field, right? I said, is that markings for the band? She goes, no, it's not for the band. And I asked Cliff's wife, I said, hey, well, do you know the blue markings? Oh, yeah, that's the lacrosse team. And I said, okay. Now, here's the problem. Fairview Park, I think their graduating class was 90, maybe it's 100. I'm not trying to disparage Fairview Park, okay? How in the hell do they have a lacrosse team if they have a graduating class of 100? Did you have a lacrosse team?
I don't think so.
I did not have a lacrosse team. There were no lacrosse teams, right? In the last 10 years, all of a sudden, all these cities around Cleveland, they're going to have hockey teams. Now, towns like Avon, Strongsville, Midview, all of a sudden they have hockey teams, right? It's like, when did you guys get hockey teams? And they're getting lacrosse teams. I can't remember if it was Normandy or Parma, but they were advertising. They said, come to our school and do women's rugby, right? I'm telling you, it's slow, and not so much the women's rugby, but the hockey, the lacrosse, the regular rugby, it's all because football is starting to die from the grassroots. Yeah. From the bottom up, football is dying. And like I said, it's just like boxing. In 30 years, it'll still be football. It's too popular to be gone.
Yeah.
But something else will be king.
Well, do you think that stems from the head injury?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's the head injuries, but I think some of it is also bigger, faster, stronger. You know what I mean? I remember Bernie Kosar saying when he got beat up, he was getting beat up by guys who were 220 pounds. Now everybody's 300 pounds. Yeah. And you... Oh, maybe Ted will sign your slinky later if you want him to. But
Can't hear you still.
my daughter was showing me a picture of a slinky. But that's what's coming next. Is again back to the lacrosse at Fairview. That school is too small. It can't support all those teams. You know what I mean?
You said they only had about 90 or 100 graduating?
Graduating, yeah.
Do you know how many were in your class?
No. My class, I want to say, was 560, and then my sister was 2 years behind me, and hers was the biggest class ever, and it was 700. Her graduating class, not the whole high school, her graduating class was 700. And my other sister was back to around mine, wherever mine was, 560, 580, something like that. And so, when Cliff is telling me, they have, in that high school, right, they have less people in all 4 grades than what graduated. You see what I'm saying? Oh, is she getting into trouble down there?
There's the cat. There's a cat there.
Oh, that's all right. There's cat. See, Ted, this is what I like about your house. There's not dogs and ducks and cats running every different way. Because Ted said there's a cat over here, and is it the that's the fat cat. That cat doesn't run. He kind of flops around like a big tub of goo. Oh, but so the point of my story is football's dying from the ground up, okay? And again, there's too much money in it to die right away, and you're just going to have less skilled positions. But again, at the end of the day, they talk about. Do you remember when Troy Smith went to Ohio State?
Yeah.
And they said, "What position does he play?" And they wrote athlete. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even have a position for him. And that's the future of the NFL. They're going to have to take people from other sports and, I'm looking at our time. Are we all right? We're not over 1.5? I think we're okay. Now, let me go back to Star Wars just because this is the magazine, okay? Magazine of the week is Entertainment Weekly, okay? Now, the Star Wars that I watched this week was Star Wars 7, okay? And I said it was good but predictable, okay? I went to go see Titanic, and the whole thing was, my wife made me go. And I said, why do I want to go see a movie that you know how it ends? Yeah. And she goes, well, you don't know how the boat sinks, and you don't know the love story, and you don't know this and that. Well, she was right. It was a good movie, even though at the end I knew that the boat sank. My daughter's laughing.
Dad, I found something awesome!
Oh, what'd you find? Oh, is this pretty pictures from when I was a kid?
Read the note in the back. At first I was like, oh, this must be Mom and Dad. No!
Oh, no. Oh, this is from an ex-girlfriend. I'm glad you found. Does that make you laugh? Do you want me to tell you I'm doing a webcast, or should I keep that to myself? She's laughing about pictures of me and one of my ex-girlfriends. She found in a book there. So downstairs we have a table and it's filled with crafts. So somehow this got emptied out on there when we were cleaning out one of the desks. So anyhow, our magazine of the week is Entertainment Weekly, right? On the front page is Rogue One, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, where is Rogue One in the great scheme of things?
I don't know.
Okay, the original Star Wars that came out in 1977, that was 4. Okay, I'm holding up a sheet of paper. 1977 is 4. Okay. 81 I got to show Ted so he's not lost.
Yeah, I didn't even see that.
Is 5. Oh, I did that backwards. That looks like a swastika. I meant to put a backwards 5. Okay, 85 was 6. And then whenever the other ones were made, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So this is the years they were made, and this is the numbers that came out. You see this, Ted?
Mm-hmm.
And this is horrible for radio. But this is Star Wars 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Now, the one that just came out made $1 zillion. Okay? In the year 2016 was Star Wars 7. Okay? So now we're back kind of in order. And the one that comes out in a couple of years will be 8, and then one after that will be 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, this one that's on the cover of Entertainment Weekly, Star Wars, that's what it says, Rogue One. Right? Now, where is that on the timeline? Can you try and guess? Hello? Oh, Quinn wants you to see this because this is
I
some
found
picture.
something hilarious. You gotta go in that.
Okay, you guys can go over there and talk about it. Okay, so go ahead. So where do you think the new Star Wars is?
I'm guessing it's here?
No. This one, right?
Or is that 8?
No. Star Wars Rogue One is... Right? You ready?
Yeah.
It's between episode 3 and episode 4. And it has nothing to do with these 7. It's a side story in the Star Wars universe. Okay? Now, how much interest do I have in seeing Rogue One?
0.
0. Because basically what they did is they took a story, they slapped the name Star Wars on it, and then they put a bunch of Star Wars toys on it, because now Disney bought Star Wars from Lucasfilm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Disney is going to be putting out Star Wars movies until after you're dead and making $1 billion on each one of them. Now, who stars in Star Wars? Does that person look familiar? No. None of these people look familiar. One person from the original Star Wars is in it.
Darth Vader?
Darth Vader. But not Darth Vader, because that guy is 90 now, right? So it's the voice of James Earl Jones will be... So Darth Vader...
James Earl Jones is still around, right?
Yes. He's still around because he does Arby's commercials. He's like...
Yeah, that's right, he does.
What is it? It's about the meat or something?
Yeah.
But I can't do the deep voice. So... But yeah, so Entertainment Weekly is our magazine of the week. I skimmed through it, and I'm like, you know what? I read about Steven Spielberg's world, and we're just in it. I'm not a big Steven Spielberg fan. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really like Steven Spielberg, and as you can tell from this webcast, I'm not a big fan of George Lucas. So look, so here are some of the stormtroopers from Rogue One. Okay, they're black stormtroopers. You ever see them before? No, because it's a new story with the name Star Wars slapped on it. Just like they used to slap, they'd slap Eddie on old Iron Maiden albums and they'd sell 1 million copies. Same thing. You slap the Star Wars name on a story, you just made $1 billion. It's all about corporate synergies and the Disney name.
The brand.
Yeah, the brand. I don't want to see movies about the brand anymore. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, Star Wars 7 was a good movie. So I'm just so old and jaded when it comes to that. I want to see an original movie. Not something that's going to push another $1 billion worth of merchandise. I'm glad Walt Disney's, they can burn money and pour ashes into Walt Disney's grave. So, one last thing, because now the dog's here and everybody's back, so we're going to have to wrap things up. The Cavs won the championship last week. Mozgov, he's gone.
Yeah, he went to the Lakers, right?
$16 million a year. Where was he during the championship game?
On the bench?
On the bench. Dellavedova, he got signed today. How much did he make?
That I don't know.
$40 million.
$40 million for how long?
I thought they said 4 years, but it could be longer. I only heard 40 million over a few years. So it could be 3, it could be 5. $40 million for Dellavedova. Where was Dellavedova in the finals?
On the bench for about 95% of it.
So we didn't sell, I'm sorry. We lost 2 players this week who signed with other teams that rode the bench for $100 million. You can't keep those guys.
Wait a minute. Dellavedova signed with somebody else?
Yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought
No.
you meant he re-signed with us.
The Bucks gave him $40 million. And the Lakers gave Mozgov 64.
Yeah, I heard that.
So there's no way we can pay those 2 guys $100 million to sit on the bench. So, I mean, it's just the way the ball bounces. But, again, you're shaking your head, but that's the big corporate business. It's like, what are you going to do?
Well, how much does trying to think, what does Kyrie Irving make?
Well, he makes a max. He makes $120 million. I'm sorry, $110 million over 5 years or whatever. I know it's at least 5 years and $100 million. $100 million X is max contract for the NBA. Kevin Love's making over $100 million. Kyrie's making over $100 million. LeBron is signing year to year at basically 22 to 24 million a pop, which is $100 million over 4 years. So they're all making money hand over fist. And even though it's great that they won the championship, you know, like my grandfather says, you know how much money they get paid?
They should win.
They should win.
Every year.
They pay them money hand over fist. But, again, just by math, okay, we have 3 sports teams. Each sports team, if one team wins a championship, and there's 30 teams, right, you should win one championship every year, or every 30 years, right? Just simple math. If all things are even. And then if you have 3 teams, one in each sports league, you should be winning a championship every 10 years, okay? So I'm glad we won, and I'm super happy we won. And we don't have to win one every year, but we should be winning one at least every 10 years instead of waiting 50. So, but like I said, I did not enjoy this. Like I said, when I was a kid, I would have been going crazy. I'd still be like running circles around the house. So, hey, we do not have a song for the day. Ted, give me a song of the day. I'm at the end. There's no song of the day.
Song of the day.
You listen to any good songs today?
I'll tell you what. Talk to You Later by the Tubes.
Talk to Me Later by the Tubes.
Talk to You later.
Oh, Talk to You Later by the Tubes. Because now the dog's barking and things are going to heck all over again. Talk to You Later by the Tubes. My name is Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. I thank you very much for your patience. Now to see if the Ducks are dead.